did virtually nothing, and that means nothing. So thank you, Dinah, for planning this wonderful party. And my personal thanks to your team as well. And perhaps I don't even need the microphone. Yes, no?
No.
Okay. On a personal note, did I mention that I'm fourth generation of the Gretsch family? My grandfather introduced me to the business in the early 50s, and I'm still at it today. Some 48 years after starting full-time in Brooklyn in 1965. But I'm certainly not alone. I'm pleased to be joined by my wife, Dinah, whose business skills and warm, outgoing personality made her an integral part of the Gretsch operation and my indispensable partner. And that's for 34 years in the business now. Dinah's own accomplishments within our industry are quite impressive. These include the establishment of Mrs. G's Music Foundation, a charitable entity that supports music education in rural schools, as well as a host of other philanthropic efforts. But the generational linkage doesn't stop there. For more than 19 years, Dinah and I have been all ably supported at the Gretsch headquarters by daughter Lena Thomas, who's here with us, who's a skilled administrator and operations guru. Between Lena, Dinah, and me, that's just over 100 years combined of sweat equity in the family. And I'm pleased to report that the next generation, the sixth generation, includes 16 plus grandchildren, many of whom are pursuing educational tracks that will help them continue the family legacy in years to come. 3 sixth-generation grandchildren here today. As we reach our wrong page. What can you say about 130 years in a few words? How about thanks to the lifers? The lifers dedicated to music who graced our stage earlier this evening and who will grace our stage here in a few minutes. Musicians, music makers who've spent their life dedicated to their love of music and music making. Retailers and distributors, and we don't have those in the room this evening for the most part, and plus the team of instrument makers, marketing, sales, and service professionals who bring our legacy instruments to the markets around the world. Those kind of people really not in the room today. Sure, makers, Benedetto's and Paul Cooper here, and there are some, but mostly it's family and friends. As we reach our 130th anniversary, our focus is firmly on the future. Over the next 100 years, the Gretsch family will shine a bright light on the fun of making music, seeking to ever enrich lives through a wider and wider participation in music making. Everyone here has a front row seat. We invite you to join us on that journey. And let's see. I was supposed to get a little help in the speech here. Hal, what were you supposed to? Are you here in the room, Hal? Hal's not here. Okay, so he was supposed to say, "How about the 150th?" So that was Hal's.
How about the 150th?
150th, 20 years hence. That's our goal, Dinah's and mine, to greet you at the 150th. But of course, the sixth generation will be firmly involved in running the business at that point in time. A couple of other things of note. 48 years ago on this date, 40 miles west of here, right off of Highway 80 in Statesboro, Georgia, a brand new band from the UK played their first gig in the United States after playing, having done the Ed Sullivan show for 2 nights in New York. They came down and played Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia. I played 10 tunes for a subdued audience, and the name of the band, the Rolling Stones. And the next week, they went to Chicago and they recorded their tune, Satisfaction. So we kind of wonder what it may have had to do with spending a few days in Georgia. So with that, Lisa, come and please introduce our performers.
You're not going to use the microphone, I'm not going to use it, even though I do covet it. Once again, I just want to thank Fred and Dinah for sharing this with us, the fun, the food, the fellowship, and the great music. Once again, Richard and Julie were just incredible. And I always wonder, when there are couples like that that are so talented, do they sit around together sharpening their skills and talking and writing? Or do they lay around and watch NCIS like the rest of us? I want to share one story to follow up, though, Fred, because I was in a meeting a couple days ago in Atlanta at the World Trade Center. I don't even know why I was there. It was a big trade representative from Georgia, and then everybody else, there were about 8 people from Liverpool and Manchester. It was a big, serious, stiff, formal meeting. It went on for about an hour, and they're talking logistics and ports and airports and all of these things and strategies and exchange of ideas. And when it came time for me to talk about music and the creative economies, I started out by saying, well, speaking of exchange of ideas, you know, the first song that Paul McCartney ever played live in public was Long Tall Sally, a Little Richard song, and of course Little Richard was from Macon, Georgia. And then later on, in the last 6 months of his life, Otis Redding was so influenced by Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, so much that that influenced his writing of Dock of the Bay, which, as you know, was the final song he recorded and his first #1 hit posthumously. And once I talked about that, finally that tension in the room sort of broke up, and people sat back and started laughing and sharing stories of seeing the Beatles. And to have an Englishman here and talk about being so influenced by Georgians like Jerry Reed and Chet Atkins, and then to be able to, I'm about to introduce an Australian to you who's so warmly endorsed by the Gretsch company that's located here, an international company located here in Savannah, well, Pooler actually, in Pooler, and one that was started 130 years ago by a German immigrant. It just goes to show that music really is the universal language. And when I was reading Joe Robinson's bio, there's a lot that sort of reminded me of Richard's. He was a child prodigy. He started out on piano. He took up guitar, and by 11, he's out touring with all these Australian artists, including Tommy Emmanuel. He's won all these awards, America's Got Talent, musical awards, and even, let me get this right, the Senior Grand Champion Performer of the World. And I know you hate that artists hate when you talk about those kind of things. He's done 3 acclaimed CDs, an EP. He's traveled all over the world with a variety of musicians. And I saw that most recently in America you were touring with Corey Smith, who I have to say is yet another Georgia artist. So please, I do want to get the names of the sidemen right because I marry so many of them, I know how important it is. Tino Pasquale on drums, Marcelo Bacos on bass, and Mr. Joe Robinson.